Good evening. How you doing, comic book fans? Been a couple of days, I guess. Well, actually, maybe a day. Yesterday, Rasa and I had our weekly conversation. It wasn't Sunday; it was Monday. It was over on her channel. If you want to go check that out, I'd encourage you to go over there and have a look. We talked about a lot of stuff. We eventually talked about comics, but we talked about a lot of other stuff too. I was wiped out last night, so I went to bed instead of doing a video. But I wanted to talk about the books that I read this week. And as usual, let's start with... Can I reach it? Start with some music. Oy, look at that. Balancing act. This was the new tape I got in the mail recently. One of my favorites, Hans Grussel's Kranken Cabinet, and then a guy that goes by the name Loach Fillet did kind of a, I guess it's a, I'm not sure if it was a Halloween, it's called Lumpy Graveyard Express. I must have heard about it at some point. I'm being a completist that I am, especially of musicians and artists that I like. I'm a huge Hans Grussel's Kranken Cabinet fan. I'm a huge fan of their stuff. So many amazing albums. Nothing on the inside, unfortunately. This one somehow slipped me by. So someone on Discogs had a copy, and I snatched it up. It's great. It really feels like a Halloween mix, like for the radio or something. For the past number of years, I've tried to do unusual Halloween specials. I think I've done about 4 of them at this point now, 4 or 5. Like, it takes a long time to kind of sit and collect all the tracks, do the stuff to my vocals and all that kinds of stuff. I did it this year for the Christmas show, which you can find on umfm.com. The radio show is dead air. It's on at Saturdays at 4 p.m. So if you go to the UMFM website programming, there should be a program schedule. You can find my show, click on the show, and it lets you download a few episodes. So the latest one that's up there is week 1 of our Christmas episode. Me and the kids went down. We all played music, and I kind of put it together live on air. We're going to do week 2 of that this Saturday, because it's the 23rd on Saturday, isn't it? So we're going to do another Christmas special this weekend as well. So all of that ties into this. How? Because this feels like a radio show that's been put together for Halloween. So pretty great stuff, pretty funny stuff. They have a bit on here where they talk about hearing Black Sabbath at 78 speed and how that blew their mind, which I think is pretty humorous. So Daryl D. Hello, Daryl. What happened there? There we go. Okay. Hello, Crack. I went to go see the Godzilla a few days ago. Due to your recommendation, that's amazing. I'm glad you went. It was the first time I went to a theater since 2010. Wow. The movie was entertaining. That leads me to believe that maybe it didn't blow you away as much as it did me there, Daryl. I'm really glad you went. First time going to a theater since 2010. Is that because there's just not much things out there that you're interested in seeing theater-wise, which I would totally understand? Just curious if there's maybe another reason beyond that. So that's that bit of music for the week. As usual, we will start out. I'm feeling very bloated today. As usual, we'll start out with stuff that I didn't talk about with Rasa, because I sort of had 2 weeks worth of books backed up, or at least a week and a half, I think. Oh, I know why it was, because I read some series that I didn't end up talking about. This is the Everyman. I've also got a new light up here that I got at the dollar store to just try to give a bit more light to these videos here, hopefully improve the quality now that we're reaching the masses. So this is from Epic Comics. Let's see what year we have. 1991. It's Mike Allred and Bernie Moreau. Um, this was a really entertaining read. I love both of their styles. I really love how they kind of blended the styles together for this book. You can see kind of touches of both of them. On some pages, it feels like it's a little stronger from one artist than the other, but I think it's a really good blend. And I'm pretty sure Bernie did the coloring on this too, because it really reminds me of like the Jam and Mackenzie Queen and stuff, as far as like the coloring, the quality of the coloring goes. This is a story about a woman who's part of a witch's coven, and the town is onto, or thinks that they're doing all sorts of sordid things out there. Our main character here, her husband is, I think I don't know if he's the sheriff or if he just works for the sheriff's department. I don't remember, but he kind of warns her off of, hey, you should kind of advise your coven there that, you know, maybe settle down with some of your rituals because you have people hunting for you. She ends up getting hunted down by these two hillbillies. And of course, as you can tell by that couple of pages there, they do end up drowning her. They end up killing her. She's given, just before she gets confronted by them, she dives to retrieve this little box. We're not really sure what it is. She gets buried with it. And kind of the final words to her are, "Here you go, my dear. Your fate now rests in your hands." And we have no idea what that means until the earth starts shaking, and they swear that she's moved. So they come to meet a almost horrible fate, to which she grins at. And we're sort of transported into this underworld. Here we go, where we have a whole bunch of spirits, entities, not really sure what you'd call them, in this kind of mucusy underworld here. And our main character, we see her again. So what this turns out to be is it's a chance for each of these people to be reincarnated. So my assumption is that all of these people that are here they met some sort of untimely death. So she gets picked first to kind of have control of the body, so she can go and seek revenge. And that's basically, hello, cat. That's basically what the rest of the book is about. Her exacting revenge. She sees her husband again, and while she's in control of the body, they kind of have a chance to spend some time together, which doesn't last very long, because once she has avenged her death, her spirit is now gone from the body and someone else takes it over. It was an entertaining book. Like I said, the art was kind of the standout for me. So solid read from Allred and Moreau there. So Everyman from Epic Comics. You mean you don't have theaters where you can just sit around in your gitch, Daryl? Yeah, that's hilarious. Fair point. Well played, as they say. That makes perfect sense to me. I sticking with sort of the, what did I do here? There we go. Sticking with sort of the supernatural theme here, I guess. This is the Lonesome Hunters 4-issue miniseries. There is a second 4-issue miniseries now. I don't remember what it's called. I had read 3 of these already. I sat and reread all 4 of them. They're pretty easy read all at once. It didn't take very long. The story is fairly basic. We have our main old man character here. We start off with a flashback to his youth. He is kind of the person that's wielding this sword to cut down some demons. And kind of like in Godzilla Daryl D, he freezes up and is unable to perform the task that he's supposed to have been born to do. So once we kind of see what's happened around him, and he's a survivor, this demon god here in the form of a giant buck. Kind of has a conversation with him and is going to let him live. Only the two of us remain. That sword, such power. It looks ridiculous in your tiny hands. If I took that sword from you, I might devour this absurd world. But I'm so weary of the churn. Instead, why don't you and I see where these flames take us? And he disappears. Cut to present time, and our main character is kind of walking down the street by himself. And I mean, this is not the first time, but this is a good one to illustrate. The main reason why I'm on this book is Tyler Crook's art. Tyler Crook is a stunningly good watercolor artist. I really like his style. He did Harrow County as well too. And this is all him. This Lonesome Hunters is all him, written and drawn or painted by him. That's the main reason I'm in this. The story itself was entertaining. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. But the art kind of overshadows it quite a bit from page to page. But this one has kind of, yeah, you're right on there, Daryl. I love it as well too. It's just beautiful. He's got a YouTube channel. I don't know. I might have mentioned this before in a video. He's got a YouTube channel that's worth subscribing to. He does some live streams and he'll do some live painting, so you can kind of watch his process. I think one of the live streams I saw, he was painting something for this book, I think, or it might have been for Harrow County. I'm not sure now. There you go. So we have these ravens that are taking over, they've gathered enough things that they're able to take over the body of a human and communicate with other humans. So it's pretty good. It's this supernatural kind of thing. I did find that for kind of the amount that you get in here, it's really difficult. It always comes back to how a book is paced. It also comes back to Dark Horse, where they continually want to... Oh, no, it was this book. I think it was this piece that I saw him paint on one of his live streams quite a while ago. That might have been it there. The way that they want to break up these stories into kind of little chapters, each with their own subtitle, is always something that annoys the shit out of me. It makes it really hard to read later on when you're looking for the issues. I also think that it's just unnecessary, especially in something like this. I guess you could argue with kind of bigger series like Blade of the Immortal having the individual stories in kind of like their own issues, I guess, but you'd have to make a really good case for me to buy it. But this one especially just doesn't feel like... It feels like it's kind of thin on story and stretched into 4 pages, or 4 books rather. Again, which isn't a horrible thing because his art is beautiful. I just wasn't crazy about the way this is broken up, because this feels like the intro to an intro to some degree, you know? And now I've got to find these other 4 issues, which I think will be a little bit difficult. And I don't know if Tyler is still working on this book now, if it's set to come out again. So I feel like this one doesn't really work in these small chunks. If you're going to read this one, I wouldn't hesitate looking for the trade paperback for it. I'll just show you the rest of the covers there. There's that is issue 3. Hey, Total AV. Don't scan yet, bro. There you go. And then finally, issue number 4. During this first issue, he does run into this little girl, who the little girl's father is the one that gets taken over by these birds. So he kind of helps her, and they become kind of this dynamic duo for the rest of it. And by the end of the 4 issues, they're pretty solid friends. So good story. Not necessary to buy it in single issues. Pick it up in a trade. Better yet, wait until a couple of the miniseries have come out and pick up a nice hardcover, a nice oversized hardcover if they end up doing that, and read the whole chunk together. This was the freebie that I got, and I'd love to talk about it, but I honestly, for real, I don't remember a goddamn thing about it. So that tells me one of two things. I was way too high when I read it, and I just don't remember, or it just wasn't that good. Let's see if even flipping through it rings any bells. I think it also might have been something. Oh, these guys are fighting these druids, I think is what it was. I think it was just basically a battle type of book with different groups of people fighting against each other. Really, really good job. After the fall of the Britons and the Roman invasion of Hibernia, the captive know only as the druid is released, sending a darkness across the world, an age of horrors, of fire and entrails, as the innocent burn in the wicker fields. Those who would resist learn of the existence of a man who even the druid fears, for it is this prisoner, a soldier from a different time, who alone knows the druid's secret. This is not how the world is supposed to be. Dun, dun, dun. Art is pretty nice, actually, flipping through it again. Clearly, the story left quite an impression on me. I don't know. I mean, it's amazing that it's free. That kind of boosts me to at least try out a second issue since I didn't pay for this first one. I'm kind of a little more willing to try out another one. But if I forget about it, I don't think I'll be that kind of upset about it. So this is Unnatural Order, #1 from Vault Comics. I'd love to bore you with a whole bunch of Firefly talk. I read an absolute buttload of Firefly. I'm up to issue number 20. Yeah, number 20 is the last one that I read. And as usual, it's got ups and downs. Overall, I'm liking it. There's been some weird stuff with the arc that happens with Mal, our Captain Reynolds. He becomes kind of the sheriff of this town due to the fallout from this second War of Independence that he's kind of blamed for. So it really goes deep into the lore of the Firefly show. And I really dig it. I still dig it. Even the issues that I'm kind of not crazy about, I get a little bit depressed, and then I read the next issue and it kind of picks up again and hooks me back up again. But I would say, like, if you're not a fan of the show, I don't think this series would do anything for you. I think it would do more if you were a fan. And it depends on what kind of a fan you are. Because if you're one of those fans, you'll probably bitch and complain that it's not like the show. You wouldn't be totally wrong, but you wouldn't be totally right either. Read a bunch of the Post Brothers, and I'm still really digging this. I'm on issue number 12. Oh, that's right. I thought that I had all the way to issue 15. It turns out I'm missing issue number 8. I said screw it, and I kept reading anyway, even though I was missing an issue. So still entertaining, still good stuff. I won't take you through every single issue of this, other than to say that I'm really liking it. Howarth is kind of the guy of the year for me. So the rest of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is stuff that, I'm still reading Cbus 2. I'm reading it very slowly. I'm up to issue number 122, so part 9 of Jaka's story. So once I've read part 10, then I'll kind of talk about this as a bigger chunk. I'm still liking it, even though some of the issues have been a real slog. I find the amount of text in some of them very daunting, and honestly, it does turn me off a little bit. But the art is gorgeous, and when those moments are kind of handled a little better, it makes it a little easier to read, and I am engaged. I am interested in the story. I'm curious to see where it goes. They've introduced a new character now called the Poet, or introduced to me anyway. I'm assuming that he's been part of Cbus world before, so he seems like an interesting character, and we'll see what comes of that. But I'll talk about that once I've read once I've finished issue number 10. So the rest of what we're talking about tonight is stuff that I did talk to Rasa about. witches, sticking with the theme of witches and the occult and druids and all sorts of things. This was a book from Image Comics in 2020, 2019. Try again. How about 2017? Written by Scott written by Scott Snyder and art by Jock. Colors by Matt Hollingsworth and letters by Clem Robbins. I had the first 2 issues of this when it came out. Loved those issues. For some reason, didn't pick up the rest of them. So happy to find this for whatever it was, $6 or $8. I don't remember what I paid for it. Not too much. More than enough of a deal for me to grab it. And I love this story. I actually really liked it. I'm glad that it still stood up, even rereading those first couple of issues to kind of get me back into it. There was a couple of moments that I did remember from it, but I'm glad to see it kept up throughout the whole thing. There's a bit of a twist at the end, a family dynamic twist that surprised me. I didn't see it coming. Maybe if I was really scrutinizing page to page, I might have seen it coming, but I sure as hell didn't. So bully for you, Scott Snyder. I wasn't the craziest about the turn, but I think overall it didn't spoil anything for me. I still really like this story. Having a daughter myself, the father-daughter bond in this book is pretty great. The way they talk to each other, the way they kind of get along, I think is pretty fantastic. And kind of the dynamics and just, I guess, the dirty past of each of the characters in this book is something else that's pretty interesting too. Like, the father is no angel. The daughter has had some real struggles. The mother ends up kind of suffering from all of those struggles to some degree. So yeah, it's pretty good. It kind of deals with bullying. It deals with kind of being the odd one out and an oddball, which I can identify with in my own life, and unfortunately, to a minor degree in my daughter's life. So it was good, really touching stuff. And I don't know, man. I got a thing for witches and books and movies and stuff. So Dracula might not be my thing. Frankenstein might not be my thing, but give me some werewolves and some witches, and I think I'm kind of entertained by it. So really great series. I noticed on the side it said a 1. I don't know if that was a mistake or if at the time this was coming out, there was plans to go further with this. As far as I know, there wasn't any other issues for this. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a 6-issue miniseries. This is a great way to get it if you can find that. Solid read. Yeah, sure. Why don't we go exactly this way? I'll go kind of reverse of what I did on the chat with Rasa. The other one that was surprisingly good was Exquisite Corpse. Dark book. So fair warning, I will show you some stuff in here to kind of give you the full scope of that, and also to highlight the art. This is the Pander brothers in Exquisite Corp here. It's a 3-issue miniseries. I guess the first thing to talk about is this was what, 1990 or 1991. Yes, 1990. So the individual issues are not numbered. They are kind of color-coded, green, yellow, and red. And the idea with this series is that you can read any issue in any order. There isn't a start here and end here. This story is meant to be kind of malleable, where you can pick it up in any order and read it. And honestly, I thought that was a little bit of like a gimmick, and sure, it is a bit of a gimmick, but I think it works, not only with the way that it reads. I was thinking about it last night after the chat with Rasa when I was kind of reliving the story. I think it also works in the world of the subject matter here. So we get the sense Let me see. Let's see if I can remember where I started. Definitely did not start on that one. Let me see. I think I started here. Yes, I did. So I started on yellow, went to red, ended with green. So let's talk about it in the order that I read it. The first thing you're hit with in this particular volume is a guy who is about to undergo some sort of treatment. You don't really know what it is right off the bat, but he's obviously done something wrong. So he's going to get treated by this new technique, looking like electrifying these needles that are stuck into his body in various points. Sort of the idea of acupuncture taking another level up to try to deal with his base instincts. It really, every single issue moves between the present, his past as a child, his recent past as this kind of what we later find out is potential for being a serial killer is what I took away from it. And then his kind of present, which is the needle stuff. And then, or actually, well, I guess the present is interesting because it sort of deals with this treatment, but he's also, there's moments where he's outside his body looking at himself. And that's, I guess this needle stuff is the past too. Now that I'm thinking about it even harder. Yeah, I hesitate to say too much about that specific thing. So I think because it drifts between those times within each issue, I think that helps it move from issue to issue, where you don't really necessarily need a beginning to the story. Where I think also it really works with the content is this guy, you're seeing him hunt basically a new victim, stalk basically a new victim, and how he goes about getting in contact and what happens with that. So in that way, all of this stuff is cyclical and it happens. It's just insert a different face for each of them. So I think it also works with that, where there's this kind of reflection on what brought him to be the way that he is. We get some pretty graphic stuff with him as a kid. A couple of very graphic images with him as a kid that really are unsettling and give you a taste of what this guy is. The Pander brothers artwork in this is so goddamn exceptional. Pardon me. The looks on the faces, like that look on that face, there's life to these faces. There's kind of grotesqueness to these faces that I love the look of. And I also like when they try to, this guy ends up videotaping everything. So they insert some of that in the art in the book. And they also play with it in the photography for the covers of this book, filmed, I guess, or probably photographed from images put on a CRT, an old school tube TV. And then we get some glimpses of some things too in issues of kind of maybe what happened to this guy. But you're left, especially after the first issue, you're really left with a sense of, I don't know really what I'm looking at. I don't know if any of this is real. I don't know if this is the same guy that we're following through the story. There's a lot of kind of intriguing questions that you're left with at the end of the first one. I read it all in one sitting, and like I said, I think it works really fucking well with breaking down the story this way. For this, especially for something kind of so dark in subject matter. I also like how the Panders mix up their style a bit, so we get kind of, none of this is really like, it doesn't scream the Pander brothers. The Pander brothers did Grendel Volume 2, and then what was the other one? Ginger Fox was the other one, and that style is quite a bit more angular than this one. This still has some kind of harsh lines on it and square jaws and that sort of thing, but There's something even more kind of steeped in 80s imagery from the other books than there is in this one. So it's great how they can change their style even with this into stuff that's one step even further from this book. Like this imagery here is very kind of caricatures, and has a very underground kind of vibe to it, as far as just roughness. So in one of his past moments, we're looking at him as a boy. His mother has died, and he's freaking out about it and pulling her out of the coffin as he has to be dragged away. So obviously a big attachment to his mother. And here's where we get kind of the image of, here you go. Let's look at your past. You want to think about your mother? Let's look at your mother. Let's turn you back into that boy and put you through this doorway and see what was so great about your mother. I guess his mother at one point caught him masturbating and choked him. She was so kind of distraught and freaked out by it. She choked him, and I can only assume at the time of orgasm, which started to kind of trigger some things within him, as far as like his sexual gratification. So like I said, pretty graphic shit, but an intriguing read nonetheless. So a hell of a book. I won't show you anything more. I think that's more than enough. If you can find this, I wouldn't hesitate, especially if you like the Panders. It's well worth seeking out. There was a few new books that I read back to back. This week I know a little bit about the stuff that's happening with Mark Millar on social media. I know that a couple of weeks ago there was a comic shop owner who kind of vented about modern comics. I've seen that comic shop owner before. I think I've seen, I don't know if he had a channel or if it was someone else who had a channel where they were kind of filming in his store. I don't remember. This was quite a few years ago. Pretty sure it's that same comic book owner. He railed against kind of the modern superhero stuff and was talking about how nobody cares about your life. They want to see a Superman. They don't want to see what would happen if I was Superman, yada, yada, yada. So, sure, whatever you want to think about that, it doesn't really matter too much. But I guess Mark Millar got involved in it because this guy got just fucking railed in social media. So Mark Millar wanted to sit down and talk to him. After that conversation, or the success of that conversation, or whatever it was, he decided that it was maybe worth talking to some other shop owners, and have kind of an hour-long discussion with what they think of the current industry and how it's affecting their businesses. So I did watch that. I know that he also came under some fire as well for potentially slamming another cartoonist book, whose name I'm going to blank on right now, that everybody is screaming at their TV, or their computer rather. Turned out to be some sort of miscommunication, yada, yada, yada. So I watched the Mark Millar interview with these shop owners. There was some interesting stuff they did talk about. Absolutely. There was some stuff that's kind of like the usual that you hear, which is kind of dull. There was some interesting angles, and they talked kind of hard figures and facts as well too, and things that they need as a comic shop. Things that they seem to be lacking are kind of titles that are long-running titles that are consistently good, because one of the fallacies they say is that people seem to think like we want 100 comics that are all the same. It's like we just want comics that are good because we need those return customers. We need those people that maybe only have 3 or 4 books on their pull list, but the fact is they're coming every month and we can kind of guarantee that income, and we need that for a long term. They talk about, we haven't changed our business model because we got into this business to sell comics, not Pops figures. That to me just screams you're just a poor businessman. Then you have to shift the way the market is going. That's just a core tenet of being a business owner, is my thought on it. As some fucking guy sitting in his basement, take that. But one of the things that they talked about, which I hear all the time, and I know on the Friday night Cavern of Chaos, Jared Osborne and all those guys, but Jared Osborne specifically is very, very vocal about how ridiculous that is. There's a lot of good books out there. They may not be Marvel and DC books, but there's a lot of good books out there. And that was a part of this interview that kind of got to me a couple of times. They really seemed at times like shills for Marvel and DC. They specifically want Marvel and DC to kind of go back to the way they were and be the top dog. They seem to say that the industry is ruined. If Marvel and DC fail, comics as a whole are going to be ruined. They didn't go into much depth on that, or if they did, I may or may not have tuned them out for a couple of minutes because that just seems nonsensical to me. Maybe, again, a very specific type of the comics industry, or business rather, will die if those two leave. But again, it's this whole focus on how you pivot as a business, because they acknowledge in that interview that yes, manga is very popular. They acknowledge a lot of stuff that was good to hear, that they weren't just kind of the same old, same old. They had a lot of positive things to say as well, and they had a lot of constructive things to say. But it just seems to be part of these conversations all the time about Marvel and DC. And I guess I just don't understand trying to always champion like the Disneys of the world, and those big companies will be just fine. And if they're not, who gives a shit? Some other Sith Lord will rise from the ashes to take over, just like on social media when Jack was gone and now all of a sudden Elon is supposed to be the savior. No, he's fucking not. He's just the same as those other fucks. He's got too much goddamn money. We deserve at least half of it. And they're not there to kind of change the world for us. You know what I mean? So there was some of that kind of talk that just kind of surprised me, I guess, a little bit in the way that it was happening. And it also was really core to me because this week I read 3 brand new books back to back that completely blew my fucking mind. So it really was like, hey, I'm your guy. A guy like Jared Osborne is your guy. Guys like us that are reading, I'm 50 years old. I'm reading independent books. Yes, I have a very small pull list, but I do have a pull list at not 1, but 2 different shops. And guess how many Marvel and DC books are on that pull list? Like slim to none, you know? So there is a market there that is coming every single month, sometimes multiple times a month, to buy books. Those people are around, and some of the things that chase us away is the unavailability of some of these independents, although that's something that, at least where I live, isn't that difficult. We have quite a few shops. They do carry a myriad of independent books. But also, honestly, some of this kind of bullshit attitude is something that chases us away a little bit. It doesn't happen in a lot of the shops that I'm in. Every once in a while, I'll hear grumblings like the angry old man, I wish Marvel wouldn't be so woke kind of bullshit. Honestly, those kind of conversations, they just turn me off. And if I had a shop in my town where every time I went in and it was that level of bitching and moaning, I probably wouldn't go to that shop. I would either find another one or potentially try to find another way to get my books. So that market is there for you, I think. Of course, I'm not saying that that number of people are the same as at the height of the Marvel and DC boom. Of course it's not. But the thing is, it ties in with that pivoting of your business. And if you did get into comic book ownership or a shop ownership because you wanted to sell comic books and that's not working, then maybe you need to pack it in. As hard as that is, that's just kind of the thing that we all face at some point in our careers, no matter what career choice we've picked, right? So is it unfortunate? Hell yeah, it's unfortunate. I, of all people, do not want to see little shops disappear. I love record shops. I love movie rental shops. I love comic book shops. I love the environment of it. I love going out and digging through bins. I love that shit. I've been doing it since I was a teenager. We would go every Saturday and hit kind of our spots as soon as we were old enough to kind of put 25 cents in the bus and head downtown. And it was a weekly thing. So I grew up with it. I love it. The last thing I want is for these shops to go away, but I also want these shops to stop complaining and then adjust your model to make it a little easier. And again, let's be honest, comics themselves aren't like they were in the 90s. That's just not the way that they are now. Will that ever come back? Fucked if I know. I don't think it will. But again, I've been wrong once or twice before. So all of that to say, all of that little rant to say that there was 3 new books that I fucking loved. So let's talk about what I loved. Faceless and the Family. This is Matt Lesniewski. His sorry, not third issue, second issue. This is his second issue of Faceless and the Family that is put out by Oni Press. I really enjoyed the first one. I think it really set up the world nicely. I think this one continues to do so, and it's hard to believe, but it just feels like every single issue, the art ramps up one more notch, and I love it. It's an absolute mess at times when you look at it kind of, from a distance. Honestly, I didn't find myself having a difficult time reading this. There's something kind of innate or inherent in his storytelling that amidst all the kind of density of the page, I feel like the story still flows pretty well. With this issue itself, I don't remember a moment where I was tripped up and I didn't know which bit I was supposed to read next. I mean, look at these pages from a distance. They're insane, but they're so freaking beautiful, man. It's like it's Darrow level density, but with a completely different style and different take on how to achieve that density. This is filled with textures. This is filled with kind of three-dimensionality. This is filled with like rubbery, odd shaped humans that at times I guess maybe almost have like a Peter Bag type of rubberiness to them. There's a couple of pages I'll show you a bit later on in here. Well, let's look at them now. My favorite pages from this book. Well, here's another good image there too. I really like that one as well. Let's see here. Oh, dude, yeah, it sort of starts here. It's just bonkers. It's so fucking beautiful. Matt, if you're watching this, you're fucking killing it, man. It's beautiful. I love the way he uses lettering as well. I really like how he kind of incorporates it into the design of a panel and into the design of a page. I dig that type of stuff. I think it's these next pages here. Here we go. These are the ones that I kind of stopped dead in my tracks and I stared at this for I don't even know how long. Minutes upon minutes. Just as a whole, and then getting in and again just looking at the detail and looking at the way these bodies are kind of existing in space, limbs kind of folding back on themselves where it shouldn't happen, hair that's all of a sudden extra long and tangling along the borders of the panel or the page rather. Really amazing, really amazing ability to kind of contort not only bodies but like perspectives within a panel. Yeah, so much fun. I'm looking forward to issue number 3. I kind of can't wait to see where this story goes. So strong book there, and one that I was so happy. These last 2, because they're so new, I'm going to try my best to not spoil the shit out of them, but I can't promise anything. I'm not going to make any sort of promises, but I will try my best not to spoil, but fair warning. Sacrificers book number 5. After reading number 4, Rasa and I were talking about this book, and I said I kind of had, because she even warned me. She's like, "Oh boy, don't set your hopes up too high for the next issue." But I really felt like this next issue has really got to. I feel like after issue number 4, I understood the world. I understood a bunch of the characters. I needed the story to kind of ratchet up one level. I just needed it at that point. It's like, okay, I feel like you've brought us along enough that this next one has got to kind of kick it into high gear. And holy shit, did this issue kick it into high gear. So I'm very, very glad that I was delivered this book, me specifically, from Rick Remender and Max Fiumara. I love it when books can kind of play with your expectations. I should expect it from a guy like Remender, that he's not going to give you the, here's the princess and she's going to now go out defying her father's wishes and she's going to save the world. I think it's done really nicely that we follow her throughout these issues to some degree. She's never like hidden from us. And this issue just kind of knocks her down a peg, a gigantic peg, as there's a bunch of different reveals here. But we do see that she is very, very powerful as she's kind of cutting through our big baddies forces here. The basic premise of the gods is that they feed on this. They feed on the essence of what are these sacrificers. They're supposed to be kind of treated incredibly well, so they have only the best feelings coming out of them. Those feelings are then made into drinks that the gods devour to keep them youthful. And our main pigeon guy here is starting to see that something ain't right. And he's the only one. The other ones are like, oh, come on, you're being ridiculous. Let's just enjoy everything that we have here. So he dives into this pool and does some investigating. We're left kind of with this image where we don't know what's going to happen to him. We don't know where he's gone. So there's a few moments in here that I think really deliver and really kind of do an excellent job of ensuring that I'm coming back for issue number 6. There's no doubt in my mind. I would have done it anyway, but especially after reading this one, I'm so excited for issue number 6. I kind of can't wait to see what's going to happen here. So I'm really digging this book. I've said it before. I'm glad to be able to jump into what I hope is a longer running Remender book right from the beginning. And I do intend to follow this one out. I feel like with some of his other series like Low, I kind of fell off. Even Black Science, I fell off. I never did finish that. 7 to Eternity, I never finished that. Scumbag, I left because I just found it really fucking dull. So I'm glad to be on this book and hope to see it through to the very end. Last but absolutely not least, this week is Raphael Grampa's Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. This is a fucking phenomenal book. So there you go. So what did we have? We had one book that was Oni Press, one book that was Image, and one book that is DC Black Label. Now, I realize that DC Black Label is not, this one isn't going to be a long-running series, so it kind of goes against what they said in that interview. They're looking for long-running series. They say all of those kind of shop owners said this pretty much the same thing, that miniseries are hard for them to sell. They don't do well with miniseries in their particular shops. So maybe this one falls outside of their rules, but screw it. It's still a DC book and it's still new. Raphael Grampa has set up an amazing kind of pre-Commissioner Gordon, early days of Batman world here. And man, am I interested. I kind of can't believe I'm saying that. It's the surprise that Batman Audio Adventures had. Batman Audio Adventures really took me by surprise, and I really loved it. This one, equally so, took me by surprise, and I'm fucking loving this for completely different reasons than the Audio Adventures. But this is a dark book, And this one feels like it explores a little bit of Batman Bruce Wayne that in my limited reading of Batman books, I don't remember really seeing this kind of dive into like his psychological damage. This is a damaged guy who basically, I think in the first issue, says that he wants to get rid of Bruce Wayne so he can be Batman full time. He sees Bruce Wayne as an absolute hindrance to what he should be. There is a huge twist in this one that I will not spoil, absolutely will not spoil, that is so amazing and takes kind of that idea to another level. I do feel like it was shoehorned in there just a little bit, and it was maybe a little bit weak of a premise. But that said, though, I think it's still a really interesting angle, and I kind of don't care how it made it in there because I think it'll be fun to see Grandpa explore that kind of element. His art is still top notch in this. His character design is incredible. We're introduced to, again, to me, what is a new villain. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and it's a villain that, oh, actually, no, I apologize. I'm not going to show you that page. I will spoil the new villain that's in here, though. Just give me a sec so I can find it. These are thick books as well, too. Russa was saying she wasn't as crazy about the square bound because she feels like she can't open it up all the way. I can understand that. I kind of like this format, but she's not wrong, though. You can't open it up. You feel like you can't open it up all the way, and you do have some gutter loss. Here's the kind of new villain, this moth man or moth creature here. There's something about these two pages and the coloring. From the few issues I've read of Monstrous, this sort of reminds me of Monstrous a little bit, but I'm sure there's others out there that would maybe agree or strongly disagree, but I don't know if it's the coloring or if it's kind of this design. There's something about this that reminds me of Monstrous. So I kind of want this. It's another one of those where I end up missing the olden days of our YouTube comic world, where there was a lot more of us on here that were talking about books that we loved and talking about books weekly. Because in that kind of era, since we were all reading them, the worry of kind of spoiling things was a little less, especially when it came to kind of like the round table, the Friday night round table, where we could kind of get together and discuss these books. And provide some spoilers so we could really dig into it. This is one of those books that I kind of wish that there was a bigger group of us conversing about these new books. Just some incredible ideas in here that I want him to keep exploring for however many issues this is going to be. I really hope it's like 4 or 5 issues. If it's 3, that'll still be amazing. But yeah. Let's see here, Daryl. I currently follow 4 new titles. I haven't had time to read any of them as of yet, but I swear I'm done with new stuff. $4.99 to $5.99 for a comic. That's insane. Yep, and I think that's a incredibly valid thing to say. One of the guys in the stream swore up and down that price doesn't have that big of an effect as you may think that it does. And to that, because he also said that I guarantee if you changed a $2.99 book to a $3.99 book, the same people would still buy it. And to that, I say, go and talk to Jared Osborne, who's reading the Spawn book. And the only reason he's buying that Spawn book is because it's $2.99. I know that that's anecdotal and it's only one person, but I can't believe that he's the only one that is only reading that particular book because of the price. I know that there's fans of Spawn. Don't at me, bro. But I think that's kind of a nonsensical thing to say. Money, especially disposable income, especially this day and age, coming out of a pandemic, the world being the way that it is, the prices of things that are necessities stop people from spending money on things like comic books. Then you throw in the fact that they're $4.99 or $5.99 each. That is something else that is stopping people. I don't see how you can deny that. I just don't buy that argument If you have any sense of the world around you, you would realize that there's people that are struggling to get by at the best of times, but more so now with the current state of the world and the price of things and the rate of pay that hasn't gone up in so many sectors in 10 years plus, depending on what sector we're looking at, right? So the price absolutely plays a part in it. Now, does that mean that if every book was $2.99, you're going to see a huge influx of people buying comics? I don't think so either, because again, it's still the fact that right now, especially, times are extremely hard on a large group of people. So, anyway, that was the only time I ever wanted to do a reaction video, honestly, is watching that particular interview and kind of dissecting it as it goes through. But I think I covered all the stuff that I wanted to talk about from it. Okay, Daryl, thank you very much for hanging out. And the other 7 of you that are watching, I appreciate it. We're not going to be back this weekend. This Sunday is Christmas Eve. We will not be back. We'll try to be back the weekend after that. If you want to stream the Dead Air Christmas episode, week 2, the show airs on UMFM, which is the University of Manitoba, here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, umfm.com. Our show goes at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time to 5 p.m. But even if you miss it live, you can go back and download the episode. It usually takes kind of 24 hours for the episode to kind of get put up in the streaming. You can stream it again, or you can download, whichever you want. But I hope everybody has a great holiday, and we will see you in a little while, in a couple of weeks probably. Okay, later.